Let's have another look at the natal chart. You already know how the sky looks in it. It is the zodiacal circle consisting of the signs of the zodiac. Depending on the date and the time of birth, one of these signs was ascending when the person was born. And the exact degree and minute that was ascending is called the ascendant. The opposite point of the zodiac that was descending at birth is called the descendant. The highest in the sky or culminating point of the zodiac is the Medium Coeli, or translated from Latin, the middle of the sky, but astrologers most of the time refer to it as the MC. And the opposite, anticulminating point, is the Imum Coeli, which means the bottom of the sky, usually referred to as the IC. You know the symbols of the planets, and you know that each sign of the zodiac belongs to a certain element and has some particular dynamic qualities. Depending on how the planets are distributed in the zodiac, we can make some conclusions about the character of the person whose natal chart we are looking at, so we can already begin to interpret the natal chart. In this lesson, we are going to have a first look at yet another important element of the natal chart, the system of astrological houses. The houses look like 12 sectors of space that are counted from the ascendant counterclockwise. They are usually clearly visible and numbered, because houses play an important role in the interpretation of the natal chart. This is how they look in a chart created with a free online service at astro.com. It is important to know the term the cusp of the house. It can be understood as the border of the house or where it begins, but it is also the point where the theme of the house, or its symbolism, about which we shall speak a little bit later, is manifested most strongly. The ascendant is the cusp of the first house, the IC is the cusp of the fourth house, the descendant is the cusp of the seventh house, the MC is the cusp of the 10th house. And there are also cusps of the intermediate houses, the second, the third, the fifth, the sixth, and so on. There are a few different ways how houses can be shown in a natal chart. This is how they look in astroprocessor Zeus. There's an internal ring with house numbers, and also the positions of their cusps in the zodiac are shown, rounded. And here is another style, used in Astro Gold software. Here we don't see any explicit signs of the zodiac. Only the houses are shown, and which degrees and minutes of the zodiac are on their cusps. Each house represents a particular area of the person's experience, and altogether they cover all possible experiences the person can have in his or her life. If there is a planet in a particular house, that house and the area of life corresponding to it is emphasized. If there are several planets in a particular house, it is strongly emphasized. For example, in the natal chart of Keanu Reeves, the 12th and the 11th houses are strongly emphasized, and those houses where there is only one planet are somewhat emphasized. There are also empty houses. This doesn't mean that there are areas of life that do not exist for the person. He or she simply makes less emphasis on them and tends to solve their problems through other houses. If a planet is precisely on the cusp of a house, like in the chart of Keanu Reeves, the moon is on the 11th house cusp. It is very important in the corresponding area of life. The further it is into the house, the less its importance, and a few degrees before the cusp of the next house, it might be difficult to say whether the planet manifests itself in this house or in the next one. In fact, many astrologers would say that if a planet is within a couple of degrees from the cusp of the next house, it should be considered as a planet in the next house. Since the ascendant is the most important house cusp, the part of the 12th house where planets can be considered as positioned on the ascendant, which means in the first house, can be extended to 5 degrees. In the case of Keanu Reeves, we can say that Pluto and Uranus are on the ascendant, so they're actually in the first house, not in the 12th. Descendant, the MC and the IC are also more important than the other house cusps. We'll learn later why. So for them we could say that a planet in the previous house, but within 3 degrees from the cusp of one of these important houses, should be considered as positioned on the cusp, and therefore in this house. There is nothing to illustrate this principle in the chart of Keanu Reeves, but we'll see more examples of natal charts in the next lesson. You need to know that there are several different systems of houses. They usually share the main cusps, the Ascendant, the Descendant, the MC and the IC, but the other cusps can be positioned differently in different systems. The most popular system of houses in the English-speaking astrology is that of Placidus. You can see in the charts that Placidus is written somewhere in the description. I was trained to use the system of Koch, and I still find that it works better for me, but in presentations I usually use Placidus to be on the same page with the audience. Different experienced astrologers might have their favorite system of houses. It's just a tool. We choose the one that works best for us. I suggest you start from using the system of Placidus and then at some point, with experience, try something else. You might be wondering why the houses aren't of equal size. This isn't very noticeable in the chart of Keanu Reeves, but in many other charts you'll notice that some houses take more space than others. The answer is the houses are actually equal in size, but the logic of how they're made equal isn't simple because we're dealing with a sphere and with 3 dimensions, and this sphere is rotating in time. Dividing it into 12 equal sectors is a lot less straightforward than, say, dividing a stick into 12 equal parts. And this is exactly the reason why several different systems of houses exist. Now, what's left is to learn the areas of life for which different houses are responsible, and this will be the topic of the next lesson. For now, please look through the natal charts in your collection, yours and the charts of your friends and relatives, and find out which house or houses are the most emphasized in each of the charts. Also note the cases when a planet is close to the cusp of the next house and should be considered on the cusp. This is your homework, and see you in the next lesson.